I woke up that morning with a heaviness I couldn't place. At first, I thought it was just fatigue, the kind of exhaustion that makes your muscles ache and your brain foggy. But as I lay there, staring at the ceiling, an unsettling feeling settled in my chest. My body felt different. Not in the I slept weird kind of way. More like it was subtly wrong. I forced myself to sit up, my head swimming slightly. Every movement felt strange, almost foreign. My arms felt lighter, my legs slightly smaller, as if I had shrunk overnight. My blanket slipped off and pooled around my waist, but even the sensation of the sheets against my skin was different. Softer, smoother, almost delicate. I shook my head, trying to clear the fog. Maybe it was just a dream, or a really vivid nightmare that my brain had somehow refused to release. I swung my legs over the side of the bed, feeling the floor beneath my feet. My toes seemed smaller. My shoes from yesterday looked enormous, like someone else had left them there. Panic started to claw at me. This can't be real. I must be imagining things. I reached for my phone to call someone, anyone, but my fingers looked wrong. Too thin, too delicate. The nails were longer than they should be. I stared at them, trembling. Finally, I forced myself to the bathroom. I needed proof that this was a dream. I needed reassurance that the reflection in the mirror would be me. But when I flicked on the light and met my own eyes, I froze. It wasn't me. Not really. The reflection staring back was familiar yet unrecognizable. My eyes, my actual eyes, were wider, more expressive, sparkling in a way that made my heart race. My jawline, once angular, now softened beautifully, and my lips, fuller. So full, in a way that made me suddenly conscious of every movement of my mouth. My cheeks were subtly rounder, my skin impossibly smooth, almost porcelain-like. My hair, which I had washed and styled yesterday, now fell differently, softer, shinier, cascading in a way that framed my face perfectly. A cold sweat broke across my body. I touched my cheeks, my jaw, my neck, desperate to feel the familiar contours of myself, but every inch of it was different. Every single inch. I stumbled back, eyes wide, my reflection still frozen in that unnatural perfection. I wanted to scream, but the sound that came out of me was strange. Higher, melodic, delicate. I tried again. What's happening? The words floated in the air, unfamiliar to my own ears. My voice didn't feel like mine. It carried a softness that made my panic twist in a new direction, fascination. I stumbled backward, tripping over my blanket. My room suddenly seemed smaller, brighter, more suffocating. The sunlight streaming through the curtains hit the mirror at just the wrong angle, making my reflection almost glow. My heart pounded so loudly I was certain the sound would give me away to the mirror, that the reflection was more than glass. What the hell? I whispered again, voice cracking. The sound was so high-pitched that I winced at it. I could feel my pulse racing in my throat, my temples, my chest. My hands trembled violently. I gripped the edge of the sink, fingers digging into the cool porcelain, trying to anchor myself to reality. But reality had abandoned me. I leaned closer to the mirror, squinting at every detail. My eyelashes, longer. My eyebrows, shaped perfectly, arching just enough to give my face expression. My lips glistened slightly in the light, fuller than I remembered. I could see the faintest flush on my cheeks, as if my body were alive with some hidden energy I couldn't understand. Every little detail shouted at me, "You are not the same person you were yesterday." I stepped back again, eyes darting to the rest of my body. My shoulders, narrower. My waist, smaller. My chest, something soft, undeniable, curved in a way that made me stumble backward again. I gripped the edge of my desk for support, my mind spinning. This is impossible. It's impossible. I must be dreaming. I ran my hands over my chest, over my arms, over my legs. Everything felt different. Softer. Delicate. Feminine. And yet, it was me. Or was it? It was as if someone, or something, had taken the raw material of me and reshaped it into a version I didn't recognize but was eerily perfect. Panic collided with fascination. I wanted to hide, to run, to escape from this stranger in the mirror. But a part of me, terrifyingly curious, irresistibly drawn, wanted to look closer, touch more, explore. I stumbled to the closet. My clothes, none of them fit. My jeans hung around my hips like a joke, my t-shirt draped in folds that weren't there before. I pulled at them, tugged them, desperate for something familiar, but nothing worked. My own wardrobe mocked me. The shoes, the hoodies, the jackets, they all betrayed me. My body had betrayed me. Then, in a reckless surge, I opened my sister's drawer. Skirts. Dresses. I hadn't touched them in years. My hands hovered over the fabrics, the textures smooth and enticing. I hesitated. No, I can't. I shouldn't. But the reflection in the mirror seemed to encourage me, almost daring me. Trembling, I picked up a soft dress. I held it against myself, running my hands over the fabric. The thought made my stomach twist in nervous anticipation. Could I try it on? Just to see? I slipped it over my head. My body accommodated it naturally, perfectly. The fabric clung to curves I hadn't acknowledged before, outlining every line of my new form. I spun slowly, watching my reflection adjust, mesmerized. I couldn't believe it. And yet, every fiber of my being knew, this was real. I laughed, a soft, high laugh that was nothing like my normal voice. It sounded strange in the room, echoing off the walls, but it was undeniably me. Or maybe, her. And then it hit me. Not just the shock of transformation, not just the panic, but a creeping, dizzying realization, I wasn't just changed. I had been rewritten. Something had taken me, stripped away who I thought I was, and handed me a new identity. A stranger, yet familiar, staring back from the mirror. I sank to the floor, hugging my knees, trying to breathe. I wanted to scream. I wanted to laugh. I wanted to disappear. And through it all, an almost terrifying thrill coursed through me. I had no idea who I was anymore, but deep down, some small, dark part of me wanted to explore it. Because whoever, or whatever, I had become, there was no turning back. The first time I stepped out of my room after that morning felt like stepping into a world I no longer belonged to. Every sound, every glance, every whisper seemed magnified. The hallway stretched before me, familiar yet somehow alien. I could hear my own heartbeat echoing in my ears as I took a tentative step. Wow. My roommate froze mid-step, leaning against the doorframe, her eyes wide. You look different. Different. The word hit me like a punch. My throat tightened. Different how? I asked, my voice soft, higher than usual, fragile. She tilted her head, chewing on her lip. I mean, amazing. Seriously. You look, wow. I swallowed hard, a mix of panic and embarrassment twisting in my stomach. Amazing? That sounded good, right? But why did it feel like judgment? Her gaze lingered on me, assessing every inch, and suddenly, I felt completely exposed. I tugged at my shirt, awkwardly fumbling with the hem, wishing I could disappear. Breakfast with my family was even worse. My mom's eyes scanned me like she was trying to detect some hidden trick. Did you change your hair? She asked, cautious but curious. I guess, I muttered, avoiding eye contact. I wanted to explain, to tell her everything, but even I didn't fully understand what had happened. How could I? I barely understood myself in this body. My dad cleared his throat, eyes narrowing slightly. You look different. Are you feeling okay? Different. Again. The word rang in my head like a bell I couldn't ignore. I nodded, trying to smile, but it felt unnatural. Every muscle in my face seemed foreign. Every movement felt exaggerated, delicate. I realized I was walking differently, smaller, lighter, almost like my body had learned new mechanics overnight. At work, the disruption escalated. Every glance from co-workers felt loaded. Whispered comments floated around me, voices I couldn't always hear, but I felt their energy. Did you do something? Someone asked as I passed by. Their tone was curious, teasing, almost admiring. I felt like a stranger in a play where everyone else knew their lines except me. Even the way people spoke to me changed. My boss, who was usually straightforward, now spoke with an extra layer of politeness, almost hesitant. Good morning, how are you feeling today? Her eyes flicked to me, scanning my face, lingering. I wanted to vanish into the floor. Ordering coffee was a battlefield. The barista looked me over, her gaze softening, and smiled. "Is this for you?" she asked, voice warm. My chest tightened. For me? Her attention made me nervous in a way I had never experienced. I nodded, fumbling with my wallet. My fingers, too delicate, fumbled clumsily. I wanted to apologize for existing. By the time I got home, I was exhausted. Walking around in my own body felt like walking through quicksand. Every step, every gesture, felt amplified. I was hyper-aware of my movements, how my hips swayed, how my shoulders carried weight, how my chest subtly shifted with each breath. The world was watching, and I felt trapped inside this new persona, unprepared and exposed. My friends didn't make it easier. Text messages I sent were scrutinized, each response tinged with surprise or amusement. "You're different," one friend wrote. Another said, "Wow, didn't expect this from you." I wanted to reply, to explain, to reassure them, and myself, but words felt useless. My thoughts raced faster than I could type. How could I explain a transformation that defied reality itself? I began avoiding mirrors in public, avoiding eye contact with anyone. Each reflection reminded me of the stranger I had become. Shopping trips became exercises in paranoia. I caught glimpses of myself in storefronts, in polished surfaces, and my heart skipped at the sight of this new me. My chest twisted in equal parts fear and something else. Something I couldn't name. The changes didn't stop with looks. My voice, my gestures, even my instincts seemed different. I noticed myself adjusting posture without thinking, softening my movements, letting my hands hover differently. Conversations felt unfamiliar, laughter slipped out higher, lighter than I intended. Strangers smiled at me differently, sometimes holding eye contact longer than normal. I could feel an energy shift around me, a magnetic pull that made the world perceive me differently. At home, it was no easier. My parents were both cautious and curious, hovering slightly, waiting for explanations. My mom's gaze lingered longer than comfort allowed. "Are you feeling okay emotionally?" she asked gently, concern etched into her face. I wanted to reassure her, but I didn't have the words. I didn't know if I was okay. How could I be okay when my very identity had been rewritten overnight? Even simple tasks became complicated. Picking up a cup of tea, walking through narrow spaces, climbing stairs, everything felt foreign. My body responded differently than I expected. Muscles I had used instinctively now felt heavy or misplaced. I stumbled more than once, spilling coffee or knocking over objects. Each mistake felt like proof I didn't belong in this skin. And yet, through all the chaos, a tiny, almost imperceptible thrill grew inside me. I noticed the way people's gazes lingered, the way whispers followed me, the subtle compliments that floated my way. Part of me craved it, despite the fear. I couldn't tell if it was vanity, curiosity, or something deeper. The reflection in my mind seemed to smirk at me silently, daring me to embrace it. By the end of the week, I was walking on a razor's edge between terror and fascination. Every outing, every interaction, felt like navigating a minefield. I couldn't fully engage, couldn't fully retreat. Friends, family, co-workers, they all saw this version of me, this new identity, and I had no control over their perception. It wasn't just external. Internally, I felt split. Part of me mourned the loss of the person I used to be, the familiar gestures, the deep voice, the confident masculinity I had carried without thought. Another part of me stirred with curiosity, excitement, and something almost addictive, the thrill of becoming someone entirely different. Walking home one evening, I caught my reflection in a store window. I froze, studying the stranger looking back. She was me, but not me. My eyes widened. I touched my face, tracing the curves of cheeks, jaw, and lips that were no longer mine, or maybe they were, in some strange, twisted sense. My chest tightened. I shivered. And then, for the first time, I whispered to the reflection, "Who are you?" No answer came. Only the reflection stared back, silent, perfect, and impossibly alive. And deep inside, I knew that my life, my identity, everything I had known, had been shattered. There was no turning back. I had to navigate this new world, this new body, this new existence, and I had no idea how. After the chaos of my first week, I realized that the world outside was overwhelming. Every glance, every whisper, Every accidental comment reminded me that I was different. That I wasn't just me anymore. I needed space, a sanctuary, somewhere I could understand this new self without judgment, without scrutiny. My room became that sanctuary. I closed the door behind me, locking it carefully. The click of the lock was oddly comforting. It was a tiny barrier between the outside world and the stranger I was learning to inhabit. I sank onto my bed, staring at the ceiling, heart racing, and thought, if this is real, if this is permanent, then I need to know who I am now. The first step was clothing. My sister's old wardrobe had been a secret temptation since that first morning. I opened the drawers cautiously, fingertips brushing the soft fabrics. Skirts, dresses, delicate blouses, they smelled faintly of perfume and detergent, familiar and alien at the same time. My heart thudded. Could I really do this? Could I really try them on? I picked a simple, soft dress, hesitant, trembling. The fabric slipped over my head easily, hugging curves I hadn't noticed before. I twisted in front of the mirror, examining the way the cloth draped across my body. The reflection was mesmerizing. My heart skipped. This version of me was graceful, delicate, alive in ways I hadn't experienced. I couldn't stop staring. Hands shaking, I experimented further. Soft fabrics gliding over my skin, skirts that flowed around my legs, blouses that emphasized slender arms. I was learning the contours of a body that wasn't entirely mine, but which I had to call my own. Every movement felt new, every glance at the mirror a mixture of fear, excitement, and curiosity. Makeup was the next frontier. I had never been skilled, but now I was fascinated. Lipstick, blush, eyeliner, mascara, tools to transform myself further, to enhance the stranger in the mirror. My hands trembled as I traced the eyeliner along my eyes, my pulse hammering in my ears. Each stroke altered the reflection incrementally, subtly shifting it closer to someone I could almost recognize as me. Blush on my cheeks. Softly powdered eyeshadow. Lipstick that shimmered in the light. I tilted my head, studying the reflection. It was surreal. The stranger in the mirror seemed alive, aware, almost teasing me silently. I couldn't stop smiling, soft, high-pitched, unfamiliar, but it felt right, it felt thrilling. Voice came next. I hummed, whispered, tried elongating vowels, softening consonants, letting the sound of my speech adjust to the delicate, new frame of my body. I practiced phrases in front of the mirror, mimicking the softness, the musicality I noticed in strangers' voices. My reflection listened, corrected, encouraged. Each attempt brought both embarrassment and exhilaration. I began moving differently, too. Posture, gestures, ways of carrying myself, all shifted subtly with every experiment. My reflection in the mirror became my silent teacher, guiding me, daring me, teasing me. I twirled in a skirt, arms raised, chest lifted, hair falling perfectly across my shoulders. I laughed, a soft, melodic sound that seemed to echo with something entirely new inside me. Curiosity pushed me further. I tried different hairstyles, braiding strands, curling locks, letting bangs frame my face. Each change revealed nuances in my appearance I hadn't noticed before, the way light reflected off my hair, the shadows on my cheeks, the subtle angles of my jaw. I felt a growing fascination, a deep, almost addictive curiosity. I experimented with accessories. Earrings, necklaces, rings. Each tiny addition transformed me subtly. My reflection responded instantly. I studied every angle, every line, every shadow. The stranger in the mirror became both my companion and my teacher, reflecting back possibilities I hadn't considered. And then came the small, private joys. Standing in heels in my room, wobbling unsteadily at first, feeling the muscles in my calves strain in ways they hadn't before. The mirror reflected balance, elegance, vulnerability, and confidence all at once. I teetered, laughed, almost fell, but the thrill was intoxicating. I had never realized how exciting it could feel to inhabit this body, this presence. Clothing experiments evolved into playful combinations. Matching colors, textures, layering fabrics. Soft skirts paired with sweaters. Blouses with delicate scarves. Each new combination revealed something about this identity, teaching me how to inhabit it naturally. The reflection in the mirror seemed to nod, approving silently, daring me to try bolder things. Even my internal dialogue shifted. Thoughts that would have been fleeting before, curiosity, self-consciousness, desire, fear, became vivid, magnified. I analyzed every sensation, every reflection, every movement. My body responded in ways I didn't fully understand, sending shivers down my spine, making my heart race with anticipation, embarrassment, and pleasure all at once. I experimented with voice, again and again. Whispering secrets to myself. Laughing. Singing softly. Each sound reshaped my perception of myself. I discovered nuances in tone, pitch, rhythm. Even private words became exercises in understanding this new persona. I was learning, reshaping, becoming someone both foreign and familiar. Hours passed like minutes. My room became a laboratory, a sanctuary, a confessional. Every glance in the mirror, every touch of fabric, every experiment with sound or movement brought me closer to understanding the stranger I had become. And yet, fear lingered. What if anyone saw me like this? What if I couldn't control this transformation? The thrill, though, was undeniable. I found myself laughing softly, dancing in front of the mirror, practicing expressions, learning gestures that felt natural yet entirely new. My reflection seemed alive, almost sentient, responding to every movement, every tilt of the head, every smile or frown. By the end of the week, I realized something profound. I was discovering myself in ways I had never imagined. The reflection was no longer just a stranger. It was a guide, a teacher, a glimpse into the possibilities of who I could become. The initial shock, the fear, the panic, they had all transformed into curiosity, excitement, and a tentative, fragile confidence. I whispered to the mirror, softly, almost reverently, maybe, this is me. Maybe, this is who I'm supposed to be. The reflection didn't answer, but I felt it. Approval. Encouragement. A promise that this journey, though strange, terrifying, and overwhelming, was just beginning. And somewhere deep inside, I knew I couldn't stop now. Not if I wanted to truly understand, truly become, and truly explore this new identity. The first time I stepped outside after my private experiments, my chest was tight with a mix of fear and exhilaration. The sunlight felt sharper, every sound sharper, every glance heavier. For a moment, I considered turning back, locking myself in my room, hiding from the world that had suddenly become a stage where everyone was watching me. But a small, daring part of me, the part that had reveled in the private exploration before, pushed me forward. I had chosen an outfit carefully, a soft, flowing dress that hit just above my knees, paired with light flats that I had learned to walk in without wobbling. My hair was brushed neatly, framing my face in soft waves. I caught my reflection in the hallway mirror one last time and felt a strange mixture of anticipation and nervousness. This is it. You're going out there. Let's see what happens. The first few steps outside felt unreal. Sidewalks stretched endlessly, people moved in crowds, and every glance that brushed past me sent shivers down my spine. I realized quickly that my posture had changed naturally, smaller steps, lighter shoulders, delicate movements I hadn't consciously learned but seemed intrinsic to this new body. Each step was both thrilling and terrifying. A woman walking her dog smiled at me. It was quick, casual, but her eyes lingered, and my heart raced. She's looking at you, really looking. I felt a flush rise in my cheeks. I realized, painfully and beautifully, that I was becoming visible in a way I had never been before. People were noticing me, really noticing me, not as me before, but as this new, intriguing presence I hadn't yet fully claimed. I wandered into a small park, choosing a bench to observe without forcing interaction. Children ran past, couples walked holding hands, friends laughed over games of frisbee. Every movement, every sound felt amplified. I watched my reflection in the glass of a nearby cafe, adjusting my posture instinctively, tilting my head, letting my shoulders relax. It was strange, like practicing a role, but the role was me. Curiosity pushed me further. I visited a boutique, something I would have never considered before. The shopkeeper's eyes flicked over me, lingering on the dress, my hair, my soft features. "Beautiful dress," she commented, with a smile. My voice responded naturally, soft but confident, "Thank you." The thrill of hearing my new voice out loud, in the world, sent a shiver through me. I wandered through aisles of clothes, running fingers over fabrics, picking up skirts, blouses, scarves. Each touch, Each texture brought a wave of exhilaration. I tried on several outfits in the small fitting room, spinning slowly in front of the mirror. Every angle, every pose taught me something about balance, grace, and the new contours of my body. I laughed softly to myself, a sound higher than it should be, but filled with delight. By the time I left the boutique, I felt a fragile confidence settling over me. The world hadn't reacted with judgment or fear. It had responded with curiosity, acceptance, and sometimes admiration. Each encounter, no matter how small, was a lesson in inhabiting this identity outside the sanctuary of my room. Coffee shops became new playgrounds for experimentation. Ordering my drink, chatting casually with strangers, laughing at jokes, and responding with the soft, melodic voice I had practiced in private. All of it built a sense of self I had never felt. A young woman at the counter smiled warmly, complimenting my earrings. My heart fluttered. "Thank you," I said, softly. Her smile lingered longer than expected, and I realized that the thrill wasn't just in attention, it was in connection. Even casual walks became exercises in discovery. I learned how to adjust my gait, how to move through crowds, how to occupy space without drawing unwanted attention. Every glance, every whisper, every subtle gesture taught me more about the persona I was shaping and the world's response to it. I felt powerful in a new, subtle way, seen, acknowledged, and yet still in control of my own narrative. A weekend outing to the mall marked a turning point. I dressed in a slightly bolder outfit, a skirt paired with a fitted blouse and low heels. My steps were measured, deliberate, each one reinforcing my growing mastery over this new self. Store clerks greeted me politely, strangers smiled, and a few even commented on my style. My heart raced, not with fear, but excitement. The thrill of being recognized, appreciated, and noticed for who I was now was intoxicating. I experimented with accessories, earrings, bracelets, rings, scarves. Each addition subtly reshaped my presence, enhancing my confidence and curiosity. Mirrors in store windows became my allies, offering feedback and silent encouragement. I adjusted my posture, smiled lightly, tilted my head, and watched the reflection respond with a kind of silent approval. Interactions became playful experiments. Compliments were met with soft smiles. Accidental glances were met with confident acknowledgement. Conversations with strangers, brief and fleeting, taught me how to maintain balance between vulnerability and control, between curiosity and caution. Every encounter, every gesture, was a lesson in inhabiting this new identity fully. Even small public errors, tripping slightly in heels, spilling a drink, fumbling with a purse, became exercises in resilience. I learned to laugh softly, recover gracefully, and continue. The embarrassment, once unbearable, transformed into a tool for growth, pushing me to refine posture, movement, and confidence. By the end of the weekend, I realized something profound. I was no longer merely experimenting in private. I was learning to exist in this new identity publicly, navigating social spaces, receiving feedback from the world, and adjusting. Fear had not disappeared, but it had transformed into something productive, an edge that sharpened awareness and heightened sensation. I returned home exhausted but exhilarated. Sitting on my bed, I reflected on the past few days. The mirror no longer reflected a stranger. It reflected someone I was beginning to recognize, someone I was learning to inhabit with care, curiosity, and growing confidence. Every glance, every experiment, every public interaction had shaped me in subtle ways. And deep down, I knew the journey was far from over. The world had become a stage, and I was learning the role. But more importantly, I was discovering the character, the persona, the identity I could call my own. And the thought sent a thrill through me so intense, so intoxicating, that I couldn't stop smiling, couldn't stop spinning in the soft glow of my room, and couldn't wait to see what the next chapter would bring. That it started as a normal day, or at least, I thought it would be. I had become more confident in my public persona, learned how to navigate crowds, and even started enjoying the subtle attention I received. But that morning, the tension in my chest warned me that something was about to shift. Work was the first battlefield. Walking into the office, I sensed the subtle, weighted glances of colleagues I had grown accustomed to. But today, there was something different, an undercurrent of scrutiny, whispering beneath the surface. I felt eyes on me, not in admiration, not in casual observation, but in challenge. My heartbeat spiked. "Hey, can I talk to you for a minute?" my boss asked, leading me to her office. Her voice was calm, professional, but the sharp edge beneath it made my stomach twist. Inside the office, she closed the door behind me. "You've been different lately," she said carefully, choosing her words. "And it's noticeable." I felt my face heat, my heart racing. Different. Not in a good way, apparently. I'm just adjusting," I stammered, the words soft but wavering. My reflection in the glass of her window seemed to mock me. Her eyes softened, but not entirely. "I understand that, but it's affecting workflow. People are talking. Curious, yes, but also distracted. I need you to," she hesitated. "I need you to consider how this is perceived." I swallowed hard, panic and frustration colliding. I realized in that moment that this wasn't just about my comfort, it was about the world around me. My existence in this new form was forcing people to confront me, to react, and I had no control over those reactions. Walking back to my desk, whispers followed. Heads turned as I passed. Some faces were friendly, curious, admiring. Others were judgmental, skeptical, even hostile. My hands shook as I sat down, heart racing. I realized that my private experiments, my growing comfort, had collided violently with the outside world. The world saw me as a stranger. By mid-afternoon, the confrontation escalated. A coworker, normally casual and cheerful, leaned in as I passed. "So, are you really like this now?" Her voice was curious, almost teasing, but edged with sharpness. I froze. "What does like this mean?" I don't know," I admitted, voice high and trembling. It's complicated." Her eyes narrowed, judgment flashing briefly. "Because people are talking. You can't ignore it forever." I stumbled away, hiding in the restroom, staring at my reflection. The stranger in the mirror was no longer comforting. It was challenging me, daring me to make a choice. I felt panic rise, a storm of fear, excitement, and indecision. Do I retreat? Do I hide? Or do I embrace this fully, regardless of the consequences? The real confrontation came later that evening. I had been invited to a small dinner with friends I had known for years, who had seen the old me. Sitting at the table, the tension was palpable. Their eyes flicked to me repeatedly, some with curiosity, some with judgment, some with thinly veiled amusement. One friend, braver than the rest, leaned forward. "I have to ask, this change, it's permanent?" Her tone was casual, but the question struck like a hammer. My heart raced. I wanted to answer, to explain, to scream, to run, but I had no words that could capture the reality. "Yes," I whispered finally, barely audible. The words trembled in the air. "It's me. Now." The silence was suffocating. Every glance, every raised eyebrow, every subtle shift in body language felt magnified. I realized then that my life had truly shifted. I was no longer just experimenting privately. I had become someone others would now interpret, judge, and respond to publicly. Emotions crashed inside me. Panic. Fear. Embarrassment. Curiosity. A strange thrill. I felt the weight of all eyes, all judgments, all expectations. And yet, deep inside, a spark of defiance ignited. If this is who I am now, I can't hide. I have to own it. The next confrontation came unexpectedly. Walking through the park that evening, I encountered a group of acquaintances from work. Their faces brightened with surprise. "Wow, you really went all out, huh?" one teased. I could feel my pulse in my throat. I realized that hiding would no longer protect me. Every glance, every comment, every reaction forced me into a decision: remain fearful, or step fully into this identity. Yes, I said finally, voice firm despite the tremor. "This is me. You'll have to accept it, or not see me at all." The response was a mixture. Some faces softened with understanding, others tightened with discomfort. But the moment was pivotal. I felt a shift inside me, a surge of empowerment mingled with vulnerability. The choice had been made. I couldn't retreat. I couldn't deny myself. At home, the confrontation became internal. Sitting in front of the mirror, I studied myself. The face staring back was not the one I had known. but it was undeniably mine now. The body, the voice, the presence, they were real, and they demanded acknowledgement. Tears welled in my eyes, a mixture of grief for the old me and awe at the new. I whispered to my reflection, softly, I can do this. I can be this, fully. I have to. The real test came the following weekend. A friend's birthday party. Crowded, social, unpredictable. I dressed carefully, selecting an outfit that balanced elegance with comfort. My heels clicked softly as I entered the room, each step a conscious exercise in presence and poise. Eyes turned, conversations paused. Some smiled, some stared, some whispered. And I held my head high. Questions came, teasing remarks, some judgment, some curiosity. I answered with soft confidence, laughing lightly, adjusting my posture, letting the world react. I realized then that confrontation wasn't just external, it was internal. The true challenge was accepting myself, embracing the thrill, and commanding my presence fully. By the end of the night, the tension had shifted. Some friends nodded, accepting the reality of this new me. Others remained distant, unsure how to react. But I no longer cared about their judgment. I had confronted fear, faced scrutiny, and stepped fully into the identity I had been exploring privately for weeks. Sitting alone on the balcony afterward, the cool night air brushing my skin, I reflected on the storm of the past days. The confrontation had been brutal. Fear, embarrassment, curiosity, thrill, empowerment, all collided in a chaotic, intense mix. I realized something fundamental. My life would never be the same. But neither would I. I had been forced into change, yes. But now, I was choosing it. I was no longer a passive participant in this strange, thrilling transformation. I was active, present, and awake in a way I had never been. And for the first time since it all began, I felt powerful.